Are you preparing for a Kubernetes interview? This video covers the most commonly asked Kubernetes interview questions along with detailed answers to help you succeed. Whether you're a beginner or aiming for an advanced role, this guide has everything you need to master Kubernetes concepts and confidently tackle technical interviews. Basic Kubernetes questions. What is Kubernetes and why is it used? Kubernetes is an open-source container orchestration platform for automating the deployment, scaling, and management of containerized applications. It helps manage complex container-based workloads across clusters efficiently. Explain the basic architecture of Kubernetes. Kubernetes follows a master worker architecture. Control plane master node manages the cluster. It includes KubeAppObserver, handles API requests. KubeScheduler assigns workloads to nodes. KubeController Manager maintains desired states. ECT stores cluster data. Worker nodes run application workloads. Key components. Kubelet ensures pods run properly. KubeProxy manages networking. Container runtime executes containers, e.g., Docker, containered. What are the key components of Kubernetes? Pods, smallest deployable unit containing one or more containers. Nodes, machines, VMs/physical, where workloads run. Services, expose pods to internal/external traffic. Deployments, manage pod lifecycle and scaling. ConfigMaps/secrets, store configuration and sensitive data. What is a pod in Kubernetes? A pod is the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. It encapsulates one or more containers that share the same storage, network namespace, and lifecycle. How does Kubernetes ensure high availability? Replication uses ReplicaSets to maintain multiple copies of pods. Self-healing automatically restarts failed containers. Load balancing services distribute traffic across pods. Multi-master setup avoids a single point of failure. What are namespaces in Kubernetes and why are they used? Namespaces isolate resources within a Kubernetes cluster, allowing multiple teams to share a cluster. Useful for organizing and managing large applications. What is the difference between a deployment and a stateful set? Feature: deployment. Stateful set. Purpose: stateless applications. Stateful applications. Pod identity: identical, interchangeable. Unique, persistent identity. Scaling: easy and fast. Sequential pod scaling. Use case: web servers, APIs. Databases: Kafka, Zookeeper. Explain the role of KubeAppObserver, KubeScheduler, and KubeController Manager. KubeAppObserver, front-end for the Kubernetes API, handles REST requests. KubeScheduler assigns workloads, pods to suitable nodes. KubeController Manager ensures the cluster matches the desired state, example, pod replication. Kubernetes networking. How does networking work in Kubernetes? Kubernetes uses a flat networking model where all pods can communicate with each other using unique IP addresses. It relies on the Container Network Interface, CNI, for network management. What is a service in Kubernetes? How does it differ from an ingress? Service exposes a set of pods internally or externally, cluster IP, node port, load balancer. Ingress manages external HTTP/S traffic and routes it to services via defined rules. Explain cluster IP, node port, and load balancer services. Cluster IP default internal-only service. Node port exposes services on each node's IP and static port. Load balancer uses external cloud providers' load balancer. What is a CNI, Container Network Interface? And why is it important in Kubernetes? CNI is a specification for configuring network interfaces in containers. It allows Kubernetes to integrate with various networking solutions like Calico, Flannel, and Cilium. How does Kubernetes handle DNS resolution? Kubernetes uses core DNS for internal name resolution, allowing pods to access services via their names. Example: servicename.namespace, svc to cluster.local. Workloads and scaling. 14. What is a replica set? How does it relate to a deployment? A replica set ensures a specified number of pod replicas run continuously. A deployment uses a replica set internally to manage the pod lifecycle and supports updates and rollbacks. How do you scale applications in Kubernetes? Manually, update replicas via kubectl scale. Automatically, use a horizontal pod autoscaler (HPA) or vertical pod autoscaler (VPA). What are horizontal pod autoscaler (HPA) and vertical pod autoscaler (VPA)? HPA scales pod count based on CPU, memory, or custom metrics. VPA adjusts pod resource requests/limits dynamically. What is a daemon set and when would you use it? A daemon set ensures that a copy of a pod runs on all or some nodes. Use it for logging agents, monitoring, and networking. Storage in Kubernetes. How does Kubernetes handle persistent storage? Persistent data is managed using persistent volumes (PV) and persistent volume claims (PVC). Kubernetes supports dynamic volume provisioning with storage classes. What are persistent volumes (PV) and persistent volume claims (PVC)? PV, a storage resource provisioned by an administrator. PVC, a user request for storage. Kubernetes binds PVCs to available PVs. What is a storage class in Kubernetes? A storage class defines different storage profiles, examples, SSD, HDD, and enables dynamic volume provisioning. Configuration and secrets management. 21. What are ConfigMaps and secrets? How are they different? ConfigMaps store non-sensitive data. Example, environment variables. Secrets store sensitive information. Example, API keys, base 64, encoded. Security and access control. What is role-based access control (RBAC) in Kubernetes? RBAC restricts resource access based on user roles. It uses roles, role bindings, cluster roles, and cluster role bindings. What are network policies in Kubernetes? Network policies control pod communication ingress/egress using label selectors. Helm and Kubernetes operators. What is Helm and how does it help in managing Kubernetes applications? Helm is a package manager for Kubernetes that simplifies deployment using reusable templates called charts. What is a Kubernetes operator and when would you use one? Operators extend Kubernetes capabilities by automating complex application lifecycles using custom resources, CRDs. Troubleshooting and debugging. How do you debug a failing pod? kubectl describe pod name view detailed pod status. kubectl logs pod name check container logs. kubectl exec it pod name /bin/sh access pod shell. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the for notifications.